Hello everybody, I'm going to do a review and an assembly video on this jumbo wagon I picked up from Northern Tool. These retail for $129.99. It was on sale for $99.99 and I found a coupon code for $20 off anything over $100. So I purchased some crackers at the point of sale, checking out, and was able to save 20 bucks on this. So in essence I got it for $20 off $9.99 plus tax. Not too bad. Supposedly this is rated up to 1,400 pounds. I kind of doubt that. I think all these wagons like this are extremely overrated. But it does have 13-inch by 5-inch pneumatic tires on it. Everything is steel construction with the exception of that black disc right there. That's the only plastic piece on it that I can see. So I'm pretty comfortable with the price. I was looking at Harbor Freight and was going to go get theirs, but this one actually has sides on it, on all four sides, that will actually fold down, or you can take them off, whatever. So I went with this one instead over the one that from Harbor Freight. And Northern Tool sells two smaller varieties that all have the tilt down sides as well. So if you guys are looking for one of these to use around the house or whatnot, you might consider it. So I'm going to get on with the installation portion of it. It's not very complicated, however their exploded view diagram is quite small, so let's get it put together. Here's a quick shot of the hardware kit that came with it. Everything's laid out quite nice right here. There's a cotter key that's trying to get out of this section, so we don't want to lose that. There's perforations on the back, so I'm just going to tear these sections off and I'll just rewrite the numbers here, but I'll call these out as I get to them and where I'm installing the fasteners, because let's say there's a 12 right here for example, but there's a 12 right here as well. Okay, well I have the cart section laid upside down with these bolts facing upwards. Just need to find the section that the steering wheel's hooked to. You can put this on backwards, so you need to put it in this orientation here where these arms go towards the center, and just set it over there. I'm using 2 washers out of this 12, 2 nuts out of this 15. Just going to put on the washer and the nuts and tighten them up. That's all there is to this step. Okay, that's been tightened up. In this section down here, which I've numbered 9, 10, 12, 15, and 16, 3 of these are the same and one of them is a little bit longer. So I'll deduce where this one goes, but I'm going to use 2 of the shorter ones right here. And the steering linkage bar, there's a couple of burrs on this. I'm going to point those up and just set it across here, and then I'll run these up from the bottom and then put on the washer and the nut. These will get tightened up to where they don't move, and then I'll back them off just a little bit until it frees up and I can still use the steering freely like this. Obviously too loose. Tighten them up till they don't move, one at a time. Break it off just a little bit until it frees up. Alright, now we're going to install a couple more things. I'm deviating from their instructions. This particular piece right here, they claim is supposed to lay over the top of these, and then there's a post sticking off right here where this will ride. It's a good 3/4 of an inch away from that, and if I force it down and open up that bracket, this is going to be in such a bind it's not going to hardly want to turn. So this is going to go underneath like so. But there is also this bracket that we need to put on from that right there. It's going to be in this assembly as well. So this is going to sandwich in between here and this bracket like that. Out of this slot that was 9, 10, 12, 15, and 16, I pulled these 2 bolts off. The short bolt is going to go right here. The long bolt is going to go right here. Okay, I have these installed. I have not tightened them up yet. I'm just getting everything ready. Out of this one that was 13 and 14, there's one thick washer that's a little bit smaller. You'll need that, as well as the cotter pin that was in there. It's still sticking up a little bit proud here, but I am able to push it down. I'll put that on, put the cotter key through the hole, and just bend this around. There we go. So now what I'm going to do is the same thing I did on the other ones. I will tighten this up until where it gets tight and doesn't move. I'll back it up just enough to where it frees it up, and I'll do the same thing with this one. Okay, well that works the way it's supposed to. I'm using one nut out of 15 and one washer out of 12. And that is just simply going to go right here and get tightened up. Okay, I went ahead and put this section together. I used 4 nuts out of 15 and 4 washers out of 12. Pretty self-explanatory. Here, here, right here, and right down there. Tighten all that up. Okay, well I was getting ready to put the wheels on and I ran into an issue, and I'll run through that. But for reference anyway, I've grabbed a acorn nut out of 17, one of these washers out of 13, 14, and one of these lock washers out of 21. What they say to do here is drop your washer on, follow it with a lock washer, and bring your acorn nut on. And of course now I need to tighten this up, right? Now this should just bottom out and tighten up against the shoulder. See, I can't turn the wheel very well, and it's not even really tight. Can't hardly turn the wheels. Well, let me show you what the problem is. And I've looked online and they've made a design change. Between the manual I have and the manual they show online, there's a design change. The one that they show online, which may be old or new, I don't know, I'm assuming old, there was a spacer that would have gone on this axle shaft first, which would have been a certain width. Then you would have put your wheel on, and this shoulder right here on the end of this bolt should stick out past this bearing flange just a little bit. As it is now, the bearing flange is sticking out, the inner race is sticking out further than that shoulder there. So when I tighten down to the shoulder, it's putting too much preload on these bearings and they're not wanting to roll when it's locking them up. So they've evidently changed something here, but they kept the same hardware. So I'm using that washer and I'm discarding these two pieces here. I went down to my Atwood store, which I can buy fasteners by the pound, and I picked up some 1/2 inch, I think they were a 1/2 by 16 pitch nylock nuts, but these stand a little bit prouder because these are like a grade 5 or a grade 8. They didn't have metrics. Now that was 79 cents out the door for these. Then I went ahead and ran down to Ace to see if they had any metric ones, and they did. And this is an M12 by 1.75 pitch metric nylock nut. These cost me $1.19 a piece, or $5.21 out the door. Kind of outrageous, but rather than trying to retap things and stuff like that, I'm just going to go with them. So basically now I'm putting it on like this, and I'll preload this bearing. My socket's too small. I'll preload this bearing, take most of it out until it gets a little snug, and I'll back it off just a little bit. The reason I'm doing this is there's a safety issue, and I just wanted to cover this really well for people that get one of these. You may be have a lot of weight on this thing, and with that lock washer on there, when you tighten this up to the point where it's acceptable and it still rolls, right there, see it's starting to snag. I did that with my hand, and I've already compressed that lock washer with my hand. So what happens if one of these nuts accidentally twists off on you and you're pulling around a corner or pulling it and one of these things comes off? Who's going to get injured? So that's just a safety warning there. I would highly recommend doing this modification. I was hoping to keep modifications out of the video, but it is what it is. So if you guys pick up any cart like this, make sure that the wheels are going to be on there safe so they don't come off. Now the only other thing I'm going to do here further than what I've already noted was I am going to put some grease on this shaft here. It's not for lubrication, it is for to prevent rusting. So I will lubricate the shafts just as a rust inhibitor, and then like I said, I will put my nuts on, get them to where the preload's pretty good, back them off just a little bit, and then we'll move on. Okay, I have it on the wheels now. I can't stress enough how much I highly recommend changing out that hardware to the nylocks. Just a word of warning there. I'm getting ready to start putting on the side rails. Pretty self-explanatory. I'm only going to show this one. These clips come out of the section 2. There we go. So I'll put the rest on around its perimeter, and then I'll show how they lock up. Alright, well I have all 4 sides put on it. It's locked in right now. Lift it up vertically, this arm handle here, and you can lay it all the way down. And you can do it to one side, the back, the front, all of them. It doesn't matter. But you can see once it's locked in how much play there is right here in this. I can't take it all out, but there's some threads left on this. They just don't simply have it tightened in all the way. So I'm just going to run this in until I run out of threads. And there, now it's a lot tighter. Once I get them all done, it'll stiffen it up some more. Just an idea. Okay, well, I've tightened all these up and took all the play out of them. It's actually quite rigid now. That little banging you hear are these clips. Okay, well, we're at the last step. This is the spacer here that hooks onto the handle. Of course, the handle itself. I'm going to hold it in this position right here so I can show you what I'm doing, because there are another set of holes for some odd reason, but you just want to push this in here and line up that hole. I had to tap it on the ground to get it right. And then this is the bolt, nut, and washer that came out of 11, 12, and 15. I did have an extra 12, so I'm going to utilize that on this and put a washer down by the head. And I'll put another washer here. And then of course the nut, and I'll tighten this up. Alright, well I've got the handle hooked up and it works, but I'm not satisfied with it. I don't know if you can see all the movement right here without any movement happening there. It's just flopping around inside this plastic piece, and I think that's what that other hole was for. There's supposed to be a bolt that goes through this plastic piece to keep that from happening, but there's no hole in the plastic. There's going to be. I'm going to go ahead and modify mine. I don't think I have a bolt that long around here, or I'll cut one down proper length. I'll figure it out. Another thing I noticed is my handle has not been bent straight in relationship to those holes. I don't know if that's supposed to be that way. I would think not, but I actually find it comfortable that way to, when pulling it, to have my wrist cocked just a little bit this way, because I do have problems with my wrists pinching nerves all the time. It's a irritating thing. So I'm going to show how to modify that, and then we'll wrap this deal up. Okay, well I've completed my modification here. This is the original bolt that goes through here, and there was an extra hole in this tube at a 90-degree angle to that. So what I did was I took a 5/16 drill and I drilled through this plastic out the other end, and I put in a 5/16 by 1 3/4 inch bolt, lock washers and a nut, and sandwiched that together. In addition to that, there was a lot of play inside of this. The tube is a lot smaller than the inside diameter of this plastic piece right here. So I wrapped that with many rounds of duct tape to take up that slack. Now this thing appears to be very, very rigid. So I'm going to put it back on and see if we've eliminated all the play and see what I think. Alright, well I have the handle reinstalled. All the play is gone now. As soon as I start moving it, it starts steering the wheels. That's what I was going for. Give me a little bit more control. I'm satisfied with that. This is what it looks like assembled with the sides in the upright position. Here is a view with it with the sides knocked down, used just as a platform. All in all, I'm completely satisfied with it to date, even though I have not used it. It seems to be quite rigid for what it is, and it seems like it's going to work just fine for my purposes. You might ask why I purchased it, so I'll throw a little bit in there as well. I need to move a lot of cement, bags, maybe some sand, this, that, and the other, and 80 pounds carrying things all the way around to the backyard is not a fun thing to do. Secondly, I had just purchased an investment property, and I need to knock down a retention wall that is made out of cinder block, and I can't get any equipment to the back, so this is going to be the vehicle that is used to remove the old block wall. So check these out. They have different ones. I think it was okay for the money for sure. A couple of modifications that needed to be done in my opinion to make it work better. Certainly address the wheels. That would be number one on my priority list, to make sure that the nuts do not and cannot come off and you potentially get hurt or hurt somebody else if you lose the load. So I hope this helps in some way. Thanks for watching. Good luck.